But I don't see it. I watched the game. I've seen a few live games lately. I watched Forest the other night. I was kicking my cups of tea over. I was watching it. All I hear was they're neat and tidy. But they were never going to score. Never going to score. No goals again today. Part of playing for Man, you're going to go back to responsibility for when you're playing for a big club and you're getting all this, the big contracts and all the reward. Is a responsibility to win football matches. Ultimately, is that what we're here for? To win. We're praising Liverpool. We're praising Liverpool for the last few months. Why? Because they're clinical and they're winning football matches. So when we sit here and watch Man United, we're going, I'm getting fed up with this. But have you seen signs of what? Signs of getting the odd draw?
We'll get back to Roy in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And as ever, if something is bubbling up inside of you, if you need to express something that is playing on your mind, please put it in the comments. The Big D reads all of the comments and he's always interested in what is on your mind. Anyway, in this clip, we're going to see Roy Keane give his brutal assessment of the current state of affairs at Manchester United in response to the 0-0 draw against Manchester City. Now, I've been rather critical of Roy Keane and his assessment, but to be fair, in this little clip, he does make some very good points for a change, and he's not necessarily as emotional or ranty, but he is, however, the Roy Keane that we love. Anyway, here's Roy. Stick around for after the clip because the Big D is going to be giving his thoughts on what Roy had to say and also my opinion on how the match itself went. Here's Roy.
What about Bruno Fernandes's assessment of what we saw then, Roy?
Yes. Pretty honest out of him, yeah, of course. Again, we saw the lack of quality, the lack of goals, which is really holding the club back the last couple of years. I still think that, I'm not sure what the mindset is in this group of players in terms of trying to win football matches. You need Gary Sundler pretty well at the end of the game. I think they need to show a bit more courage. They all show images of ex-players, people like Canton in the crowd, and we go back to the managers I played with other teams. And I know you might say this team's not as good as that, obviously not. But there's a responsibility, I still think, when you're playing for Manchester United, to try and win football matches. And I still don't think they're doing enough to win matches. You look even over the last 3 or 4 games, where they beat Leicester, but they drew home here to Arsenal. They lose at Forest. They draw here, and it's almost, oh well, I still think they need to do a bit more, gamble a bit more.
But do you think that's
not necessarily silly getting everyone in the box, but when you get moments, to take more risks. And there is that element when you play for Man United. There is that when you're watching the player play for Man United, that they are prepared to take risks, particularly the attacking players. And I don't see enough of that. So what we're seeing today is, as much as we're all disappointed with it, what were we expecting really? Because they don't score enough goals, and they've not done for the last year or two. And that's not going to change.
But is that not a symbol of where this Manchester United team are right now? They don't feel good enough to take Arsenal on, to take Manchester City on at their own game.
I get that, but there still has to be a change of mindset. You have to start somewhere. Yeah, you have to start somewhere. This is a derby game where Man City have come, who aren't in great form themselves. They're a good team, and obviously you've got quality players. So it's a home game. You're thinking, listen, City aren't that great. You've had one opportunities, and they've had chances, and they're making the wrong decision. People not getting in the box, people not hitting the target, people not taking opportunities. And again, it's the mindset of find a way to win. Find a way to get a set piece, get a last minute. City defended quite well. I think some good crosses going into the box, and their 2 centre-halves in particular, I think, done quite well. But I still look at this Man United team, and I'm going back over the last year or two, not just today, and going, where is that mindset and that gamble from somebody to say, even 2 or 3 pop, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get crossed in air post, I'm going to produce some. And we're waiting for Bruno to do it all the time. He does it a lot of time, but it needs other players to step up to the plate. And when you sign for Man United, there is that responsibility, because they all sit there and they'll sit down and they'll discuss their contract for months and get a deal done. But when you do that and you come to Man United, you do look and go, no, lads, there is a responsibility of playing for Man United, and not enough players, particularly attacking players.
Have you seen an improvement, though, Roy?
Sorry?
Have you seen an improvement with it? I think.
I can't see it, but I'm happy to be.
I just mean from the system. Obviously, we're playing 3-4-3. It's new to everyone. The manager's persistent on he wants to play that. It takes players a longer time to adapt to that. I try and see all that.
There's new players at the club, a new manager, and he came in at a difficult spell. I know that, and there's been trouble over the last few years. But you're still looking for some sort of change in the. Again, more so the mindset. Again, we talk about tactics and systems. I'm on about balls going into the box, and some good balls going into the box. You're waiting for somebody to.
Yeah, but the system is.
Do you think there's more structure, Michael?
I think it's more structure.
The system, you've obviously got 11 players on the pitch. In that system, 7 are defensive-minded players.
Correct.
So you've got your 4 across the middle, your 3 in your back 3, and then you've obviously got your keeper if you include that. You've got 3 forward players who are natural goal scorers, natural creators. You know, your Bruno Fernandes, your Mason Mounts, your Xerxes, your Højlund. There's not enough output coming from them, but also your reserves. So your best chances often fall to wing-backs. Look at Dorgu today. You can't expect Dorgu to score. It reminds me of Tottenham a few seasons ago when they play with wing-backs and their best chances fall to wing-backs and they're not natural goal scorers. And I don't care.
And it's where they're starting from as well, isn't it?
Exactly.
They're having to run 40, 50 yards just to get a chance.
That's exactly it. And it almost becomes, oh, we break the lines. It's desperate. We have to score. We have to score, otherwise, you know, it's a catastrophe.
So is it a matter of just getting better quality personnel into those positions?
Absolutely.
Which is going to take time, isn't it?
Yeah, but there still could be more of a goal threat. Yeah, you're always going to want your attacking players, and the couple of strikers they have at the club aren't good enough for Man United. I get that, but there's other players on the team. There's wide players. Defenders can score goals. I'm talking about set pieces. The goal, for example, the goal they gave away against Forest the other night, it's a corner. And then you have an opposition player running 70, 80 yards. Yeah, it's a great run, and you could say a great goal, but someone's got to tackle him. That's the mindset I'm talking about. Have a desire to dig deep and find a way to get a result.
How do you get that mindset, though? You're talking about it. You keep going back to your teams, and your team had that mindset. Maybe this
it's got to come from the manager, the staff. They've got to try and get it into the certain leaders they have in the dressing room. I'm not saying they can all be like that, but you have to have a few lads. You go, they've got experienced players out there. They're not Maguire, Casemiro, Fernandes. Did they get a grip of these players? That's what I talk about. Now, we watch them at weekends, but I go back to it. I'm always intrigued what happens day to day at the training ground. Who's drilling the... Garnacho, for example. We played around many years ago. Ollie Solskjaer ran 70, 80 yards to bring somebody down. He got sent off. Sacrifices for the team. And a sacrifice for attacking players might be making a run, might be making a good ball out of a bad ball. But I just see the United team today, and yeah, we're frustrated because we want to see action and goals. But it's just a case, and they're all applauding and they're all getting interviewed after. Go, yeah, but as if a draw's not too bad. A draw gets you nowhere fast. And same a couple of weeks ago with Arsenal home here. I know they've beaten Leicester and the Real Sociedad. Again, I'm talking about just the last few games where you're looking going, but this is not enough. This is not good enough. And I'm not, so we're. But
that's the level that they are now.
So forget the teams that I played for. But I'm on about United. Forget the top 3 or 4 teams. I'm on about competing with Brentford and Crystal Palace and Fulham and Wolves and all these teams. Are you telling me Man United should be behind them?
Do you think
even this group of players?
Do you think this group of players are better than those teams that you've mentioned?
I think so. I still think the majority of these players should be doing better than the teams I've just mentioned. Do you think Man United should be scoring more goals than Wolves? If we want to start somewhere, you've got to have a starting point. You go, right, in terms of scoring goals, Man United over the history, you're talking about the Cantonese, the using Man United, it's about entertaining fans today. The fans today.
I agree with you. I agree with everything that you're saying, but I think the system makes it harder for them to do.
But do you think United? Do you think this group of players? All right. Do you think this group of players should be 13th or 14th in the league?
I agree with you. I think they should be better. But when a manager is persistent on playing,
but I'm not talking about top 4, top 5 here. I'm talking about can they make progress to get to 8th, 9th, and this group of players have to be doing better at that. And to do that, they have to score more goals, obviously, and take more gambles. And there's a great word I think Gary meant. You have to have courage. You have to play courage for playing for Man United when it's 70 or 80,000 looking at you and you're up against it. It's easy when you're winning every week, of course that. But it's wanting the ball when you don't want it. That's the
But you're
courage.
also talking about attacking players, Roy. Højlund's still not proven in the Premier League. Xerxes is still new to it.
Right. Yeah.
So is he going to be scoring goals in any other team?
So's Amram as well. And you go to those other teams, Brentford, Crystal Palace. They've had time with their managers. Thomas Frank, how long has he been at Brentford? And he's built this system, and it makes them bulletproof at times. You know, they know what they're doing. Amram's not had that time, and that's not a cop-out saying, oh, he needs more time to get this team up to that level.
But sometimes a manager comes into a club and there's a reaction straight away.
Well, you could mention Ollie Glasner last year, who was playing that in a very similar system and formation that Manchester United are. Was his impact not quite immediate at Crystal Palace?
It wasn't immediate, was it? Well, he got a bit of a bounce, but it wasn't immediate, and we're seeing the benefits from it this season. That, you know, they're performing at a pretty high level. Yeah, the league table, I mean, what do Crystal Palace expect in terms of league position? I'm not sure, but you can see what they're trying to do. And Manchester United, I saw signs today, you know, clutching even, like saw signs of the system working, but Roy's spot on there. They just completely don't create anything, and it's because there's no sort of camaraderie in the final third, and the attacking pieces just don't seem to work yet.
Do you think the system is a problem then, Roy? Would you be throwing it out at this stage?
But the manager's going to stick with it, isn't it? The manager's...
But is that the right thing to do?
No, well, obviously that's the gamble he's taking, because ultimately if he's not getting football results, and we're talking about next year when he will no doubt get an opportunity to bring players in the summer, and then we'll have maybe be able to judge it better.
But the problem with that, Roy, is they're going to be signing players specifically for the system that he wants to play.
And that's obviously that's the way he's going. That's his beliefs and his philosophy, and that's fine. But I like to play for teams with philosophies. We like to win football matches. I like that philosophy. I don't ever remember sitting in a dressing room with the players I played with and some decent players at other clubs, including Forest and brilliant managers, where we discussed our philosophy or what way we're going to... We'd find different ways to play. Man United were trying to play out today and got caught a few times, and I'm like, I don't like that. There's times for it. But if that's the way... If they're going to go down that road and they're picking up results and you're going, do you know what, they're scoring plenty of... But I don't see it. My eyes don't lie to me. No, I'd like to be proven wrong, and Man United are in the top 5 or 6 next year. You're going, I'll take it all back. But I don't see it. I've watched the game. I've seen a few live games lately. I watched Forest the other night. I was kicking my cups of tea over. I was watching it. All I hear was they're neat and tidy. But they were never going to score. Never going to score. No goals again today. Part of playing for Man, you're going to go back to responsibility for when you're playing for a big club and you're getting all this, the big contracts and all the reward. Is a responsibility to win football matches. Ultimately, is that what we're here for? To win. We're praising Liverpool. We're praising Liverpool for the last few months. Why? Because they're clinical and they're winning football matches. So when we sit here and watch Man United, we're going, I'm getting fed up with this. But have you seen signs of what? Signs of getting the odd draw? Getting the odd...
Roy, that's where they are at this moment of time. No, so that's what you have to judge them on.
That's right. But I don't think it's good enough.
But you've said it right. The players at this moment, I believe, in the system doesn't work. I think it was on Amorim at the start. He said he's going to play this system. He's going to persist with this system.
And good luck to him.
And it's at the detriment to the players and him at this moment. Long term, I think when he wants to play the system, I think it will come good. But he needs a window. He needs to get the players that he wants. But right now, he's got players playing in positions what are unfamiliar to them. So we're asking him to do things that they can't really do. Dorgu's their best player today.
I said before the game I was going to talk about tactics.
Does he also not need to build... I mean, it's not momentum because they're not winning games, but they've got a huge game hit on Thursday night against Lyon. Do they need to build some confidence in terms of not losing games, being solid? He said after the Arsenal game...
How long do you keep saying that, not losing...
But they're playing Arsenal and Manchester City in back-to-back home games, and he said after the Arsenal game, this is not the way we want to play long term, but we have to take small steps.
So we should expect Man United to beat Man City today.
They don't have a divine right to win Man United, do they? They're playing at the level in which they are right now, and you throw the system on that. That's the results of what you're getting. Yeah. I believe if they was playing 4-3-3, which the players are familiar with, they'd be doing a lot better than they are now. I think it's the system at the moment is hindering a little bit, but long term with Amorim, I think it will work well for them. But we need time.
You're talking about expectation. You're playing Arsenal, Man City. They beat Man City at Man City.
Yeah, but
they lost heavily to them last season. I know,
but they beat Arsenal in the cup down there, so they have shown moments where they can do it. But it's just doing it week in, week out. And when they're walking off the pitch, every time we come to Old Trafford, they're getting applauded off the pitch for getting draws. So that's where the mindset and where the standards of the club is. It's a problem off the field at the moment. We see some fans protesting, and it's a huge problem on the field. So this team can produce. They've shown it in moments over the course of the season. They went to Liverpool, did they get a draw, and they nearly won it at the end. They've beaten Man City early in the season. They've beaten Arsenal in the Cup in a tough game, and they had a man sent off. So they have proved they can kind of get over the line in certain games. But it's just the lack of goals. And I suppose if you do win matches, I get that. You get a bit of confidence and belief in the dressing room, particularly for the new players. And if the strikers aren't scoring goals, then it's a huge problem. Steve Bruce said many times before, you're only as good as your strikers. And at this moment in time, that's where it's a big struggle. If you can't score goals, you're constantly under pressure.
Well, Roy does make some very good points. And ultimately, the point that I really like is he likes teams that win football matches. And he's right. He's right. I mean, you can talk about system this, system that, etc., but you've got to put the ball in the back of the net and you've got to win football matches. Or else, why else play the game? It's about winning, particularly at Manchester United, particularly with the history that the club's got. United are a team that historically win games, win leagues, win trophies. And it doesn't look like right now, in this moment, that they are capable of doing that. That is fine. But the only thing I disagree with Roy at this point is that Roy, I don't feel as though he's seeing the promise in this team. I personally have seen a shift at Manchester United over the past few weeks. They do actually seem to suit the system now. Or at the very least, they seem to be more used to it, and it's working quite well. I mean, that game today against Manchester City, we controlled a lot of the game, and there was some really nice passing, there was some really nice moves and whatnot, considering we're playing the current world club champions, as you can see from the little badge that they have on their kit. So the fact that we controlled large parts of the game suggests to me that, well, exactly what I've just said there. There's been a shift. We weren't dominated today by them by any stretch. But he is right. We need to score goals. And I like what he said there just at the end about Steve Bruce. You know, you're only as good as your strikers. And that's true. That's true. I mean, I've been critical of Onana, for instance, but because he's made some high-profile mistakes. But I remember Van der Sar and De Gea. Well, it's probably better to use Van der Sar and Schmeichel for this particular example. Schmeichel and Van der Sar were prone to making the odd mistake, but fortunately for them, they had people like Cantona, they had people like Van Nistelrooy, Ronaldo, Rooney, Andy Cole, Dwight York, to score down the other end, to still win the game despite that one mistake, so people would forget the mistake, right? But whereas Onana doesn't actually have that at this point, and De Gea didn't really have it for large parts of his time at Old Trafford, because they weren't and aren't in winning sides. But yeah, I don't think that this team is far away from shooting up the table at all. What the lass said there, I don't know who the girl is, but she did make an excellent point in that there was 7 defensive outfield players playing today. 7. And 3 attackers, and unfortunately the attackers just aren't clinical at this point. But given a good transfer window in the summer, and you get a couple of goal scorers in this team, and then it transforms everything, and then the confidence just starts bleeding into the squad, because as soon as this team feels like it can score against anyone at any time, it'll just start expressing itself, and it'll just kick on and shoot up the table. Guaranteed. Because the foundation is there in place. And if you got someone like Osimhen in, or Gyökeres, and if they do adapt to United and playing in the Premier League, and they are able to play at that level and score goals on a regular basis, then it'll take the pressure off Højlund and Xerxes and Garnacho as well, and it'll also increase their confidence as well, and people like Højlund can then learn from these guys and then kick on themselves, and then they can carry their load. So it doesn't take much, and I think one of the turning points for Manchester United this season was buying Dorgu, because despite the fact that him and Dalot are wing-backs, they do offer an attacking threat. So although the girl said that there was 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive players, 2 of those defensive players, so to speak, are quite important in attack. So, but I do take a point, and she does make a valid point. But yeah, the team is in desperate need of someone clinical up front, and Bruno Fernandes cannot keep on doing it on his own at all the time. He just can't. I've always been a big believer that one man doesn't make a team, but one man can make a difference. And Bruno Fernandes is that person that can make a difference. But at the same time, he can't do it all on his own. He can't. He needs help. He needs someone to be able to pass to, who can score goals. You need someone else that can create opportunities as well. And you need someone else, just to lighten the load for him. And it was nice to see that Roy Keane, kind of gave Bruno a little bit of acknowledgement there. So, which is quite poignant considering he's been super critical of him over the past few weeks. But yeah, this team transforms when you get more output from the front three, because the front three, they're just not quite there. They're about 5 or 10% off. Whether or not they can kick on, remains to be seen, obviously. But we'll see. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see who we get in the summer. But, I was quite buoyed by that game today. We didn't look overwhelmed in any way, shape or form. Man City didn't look like they were, a million miles better than us today. It was kind of an open game, really. Both teams, really, lacked that, clinical edge up front. And perhaps if Haaland had played today, that might have edged it for Manchester City. And perhaps, if we had a regular goal scorer, that might have allowed us to sort of nick the game towards the end. But it was a funny game as well anyway, because Man United, I'm surprised Manchester City weren't harder to play against today, because they're obviously, they're trying to qualify for the Champions League, so they have actually got something to play for in the league, whereas Man United don't. So when there's no competitive edge to a game, it usually takes about 5 or 10% off, because the teams, in theory, they don't have that extra edge to, that extra bite, that extra need to win. And Man United don't have that, not in the league. Certainly not in the league. It'll be interesting to see how United get on against Lyon away, because obviously we've got something, to play for still in the Europa League, and it's kind of vital for the progress of this team, because if Man United are able to win the Europa League, obviously they'll get Champions League football, and then obviously they'll be able to they'll get a lot more sponsorship money, they'll get a lot more competition money, and they'll be able to attract a certain caliber of player, and that might make the difference from getting the player that they actually want, as opposed to the player that'll do in the summer, so to speak. So, and plus it has been a really bad season overall for Manchester United, so they'll probably want to. Well, I'm certain they'll want to finish on a high. And this United team, it is a cup team at the moment. We've been quite consistent in the cups over the past few seasons. Obviously, we got to we won the FA Cup last season. We got to the final the year before, and we won the League Cup as well. So yeah, I think you'll see a difference with Man United against Lyon away, and hopefully, if we got a 0-0 draw against Lyon away, that puts us in the driving seat for the second leg at Old Trafford, which the Big D is going to, by the way, and he's really looking forward to that game. Be a good game, that. Yeah. So I think that's part of what's going on. What's going on at Man United, which kind of took the edge off this particular game. But Roy Keane is right. This team needs to figure out how to win football matches. And, they do make a good point in that, they played quite well today against Manchester City, the world champions, but we also beat Manchester City away as well. And we played well against Liverpool away, and we've been playing well against Arsenal this season. But like I've said before, you don't win titles beating City away. You don't win titles beating Liverpool away. You win titles by picking up the most points, and you get more points by beating all the smaller sides. So they need to figure out a way to be able to beat Forest, to be able to beat Brighton, Brentford, Ipswich, Spurs, all of these other teams. That's where you pick up most of your points. That's where you see a champion's fighting spirit, because it's easy to get motivated for a big game because of the fear of failure and the fear of getting whooped, basically. But it's harder to motivate yourself to play against a team that you're expected to win, who are going to throw everything at you, because it is like a cup final for them. So he does make a very good point on that front. But, I think United deserve a little bit more credit today, because I thought we played quite well, all things considered. And I am a little bit... I am a lot more hopeful for this team under Ruben Amorim, based on what I've seen over the past few weeks. Because, they do look like they've got to grips with this system. Bayern Dorgu has provided extra width and dynamism on the left flank, which is complementing Diogo Dalot quite nicely. I thought Yoro played quite well today as well, by the way. Garnacho just seems kind of off it at the moment. Xerxes looked dangerous, I must admit. Højlund seems to have kind of, I don't know, he's not as sharp as he was before the international break. The thing is with Højlund, he could be one of those players that needs a run of games to get the momentum going, but as soon as the momentum is stopped short because of an international break, for instance, you know, it's almost like he's starting again. Wayne Rooney used to be like that. It used to take Wayne Rooney a few games to sort of get into the rhythm of playing week in and week out and you know, becoming a regular goal scorer. And then obviously when, you know, if he'd been out injured for a few weeks, it used to take him a little while to get back into the swing of things again. So perhaps Rasmus Højlund is a little bit like that, but we shall soon see. But what do you think of today's game? Is Roy right? Do they just look crap? But yeah, what do you think? Do you see some promising signs? Thoughts in the comments. And as ever, the Big D will see you in the next one.